All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back again for another Roundtable review. Today's topic, actually suggested by Tommy, is movies that scared us. And I thought this would be an interesting topic because we all get scared by movies, whether we like to admit it or not, right? Some movies have scared us probably way more than we'd like to admit, but maybe we'll admit to it today. So, Tommy, since this is your idea, let's do this. Give me your first two movies that scared you and the scenario. What happened? What movie scared you?
The first thing I picked is actually a franchise, but it's the Poltergeist franchise, but specifically Poltergeist 2. Mainly because the movie is creepy. If anybody's seen it, especially the Reverend in Part 2, and the circumstances surrounding the movie and the franchise itself just makes it really, really creepy. Second one is Session 9. Just the atmosphere of the movie and something about, because I was grown when I saw the movie, but something about that last clip when he's on the tape when he's talking to Simon, something about his voice and the whole thing just really creeped me out the first time I saw it, and it's always stuck with me.
You know, I never saw Poltergeist 2 when I was young, but I gotta say, that old man in that movie, the first Poltergeist, I like the first Poltergeist, I do. I might get flack for saying this. I almost see it as like this soft Disney type film. I wonder if Toby would have been able to get his claws on that movie more, because you know Spielberg really took the reins on that. Poltergeist 2 is a horror film, and that old man is just, he had like the skeleton face.
Yeah.
He looked dead already, which was just perfect. That guy was phenomenal. I always thought Poltergeist 2 was scary. And Session 9, that was a movie I kept hearing about, and I finally saw it, and I agree. I thought that movie was absolutely fantastic.
First movie is going to be Frankenweenie. No, I'm joking. First movie is going to be Paranormal Activity.
Wow, the first one. Oh man, I can't argue with that.
It was just I kind of put this one and the Blair Witch Project together in the same sense of when I saw it, the found footage genre hadn't been oversaturated, and it was really a fresh take on that type of horror. And Paranormal Activity, the first one, it spooked me.
Oh my god, dude, the theater experience for that. Everybody was, because this was what, 2009. I felt very fortunate because I feel like I was the last generation to really grow up before these took over the world. 2009, we had the phones that you flipped up, and so everybody in school was like, "Oh my god, are you hearing about this movie? Are you hearing about this movie?" And man, the theater, people were getting out of their seats and running out of there. Man, that was a great experience.
And I know they probably made too many of the movies. Honestly, the ones later in the franchise were a little bit cornier.
That's Paramount Pictures for you.
But the first one, the original one, definitely spooked me.
Yeah, and it gets a bad rap, but I actually watched it at home, but I was by myself. I turned the lights off, and yeah, it really got to me. And, as an adult for a movie to do that says a lot.
The beauty of that movie was you never saw what it was, right? It's just the ambiance of that demon.
My second movie is a movie not too old, but it was called The Visit.
I just watched that, actually.
And The Visit was, and The Visit
I'm so glad you said that. Yeah. Keep going, go ahead.
And just the part where, hey, Nana and Pop are acting a little weird, and then you find out,
That woman... That was a movie I had on my list too. That woman,
when they're playing hide and seek.
Holy smokes! Under the that crawl space, under the. Oh man, that performance, and that was an M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
But yes, The Visit. My wife makes fun of me because she doesn't get scared. I was petrified from that old woman. That performance she gave. Let me tell you guys two of my movies. Okay, I remember now. 2008, me and my friend Brady, he said, let's go see this movie, The Strangers. And we went to the theaters to see The Strangers, and I did not know what to expect. I didn't see a trailer for this. Till this day, and this is actually a movie, my wife will tell you the same thing. I remember one night, she was like, what do you want to watch? I said, let's put on The Strangers, because first of all, it's a good movie, period.
Right.
We had to turn it off. It's so creepy. If you're in the house, just the two of you, and then the invasion stuff starts happening, you get uncomfortable. Just that.
living in your own house, it's almost scarier because you're like, this could really happen.
Yeah.
This does happen to people. This has happened to people, you know, maybe not exactly like that, but
There wasn't a lot of supernatural element. It was just sort of like wrong place at the wrong time.
Yes, and everything about it. The Liv Tyler, the performances, they sold it so real that it felt real. In the second movie, I'll add, this is a childhood movie. One of my dad's favorite film, who was just here annoying us because he's a 12-year-old, 50-something, regardless. He's dancing in here. He let me watch The Fly when I was really little. And it's not just the movie that scared me. What really would screw with me, because we had bunk beds, and I was always on the bottom. My brother always wanted the top bunk because it's cooler, right? The older brother always gets the pick. I can vividly remember every night trying to go to sleep and waking up, and I would always see Brundlefly on the wall. Because remember the scene where he's climbing? That just mortified me as a kid, like nothing I'd had ever seen. And till this day, I think about that all the time because it's so much scarier, even though I love the movie now and I could sleep outside in the woods watching that movie. And when I think about the way it was portrayed in my head as a kid, as if he was really on the wall, it still is creepy, though, because when you're little, you really magnify whatever scares you. And I do think that The Fly is the greatest horror remake, in my opinion. I love that movie so much, and that's part of the reason, because it affected me so much. So The Fly, when the Seth Brundle is on the wall, still haunts me till this day.
before we get to a number one, and some of the other ones that I can think of is like the Amityville Horror has always stuck with me. Anything from the 70s, just that atmosphere, and at one time thinking that was an absolute true story. And of course, parts of it are true.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But that one's always stuck with me. The Ring, the first time I saw The Ring, I can't say that it scares me as much now, but at the first time I saw it, it actually really stuck with me too.
Real quick about Amityville Horror. You know, I watched that movie probably about 2 months ago for the first time, maybe ever in its entirety. That movie, when I was sitting in here watching it with lights off and everything, the movie creeps into the room. That atmosphere of that movie. That's what's so effective about the Amityville Horror to me. I love the Amityville Horror, so I can definitely see.
My number one is probably a movie for most people. It's The Exorcist. This is a movie that scared me to death before I ever saw it. As a kid, up until I was 14, I couldn't watch the movie because it scared me so much. Because you got to think, this was the 80s. It was the height of satanic panic. The devil was real, super real. You know, music, you had heavy metal music was, you know, satanic, supposedly. Everything was satanic. And just hearing the stories about how in the 70s, when The Exorcist came out, how you would hear stories about people having heart attacks, miscarriages, people just passing out. And I remember one time having nightmares because USA had a preview for it, and all it showed was the shot of the camera going towards Reagan's door with the door closed. But that was enough to scare me. And then when I saw the movie as a teenager, it confirmed all of my suspicions.
One of the greatest horror movies ever.
Absolutely. It's still, and I think it still holds up.
Just hearing the name Exorcist, hearing the word would make me stay up all night. And I hadn't even seen the movie, but just hearing it,
man, absolutely.
The Exorcist. I mean, it's amazing. Like, aren't there like documented legitimate exorcisms in the world?
Well, the movie itself was based on an actual story that it was a young boy, I think, at a different place. I can't remember the exact story, but so that The Exorcist itself is based on an actual book that's supposed to be a true story. Whether it is or not, who knows?
Yeah.
Some people could say that possessions are mental illness. I mean, who knows? But
it's real. Movies had such a legacy even back then that a title would scare me.
Especially though, something about those 70s movies, the way the film itself looked, everything about the 70s horror movies was just frightening.
I guess the two that I have, the first movie that really frightened me to the point where I didn't sleep in the dark for several years afterwards was the original Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh man!
So my introduction to Freddy Krueger was equal parts horrific, and then also there was something about it that just pulled me into it to where I loved it, but it scared me so much.
Right.
And I think as a young child, that sort of left a certain imprint in me to where I love to get freaked out now. I dig that. But one movie, I knew that you guys would probably hit on that, so I picked a movie, and it's actually the very first movie that I got scared. And it was a Disney movie. It's called Mr. Boogedy.
Oh my God!
Oh.
Yes, that movie scared me. I was just talking because it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's an old Disney movie. It was I believe it was a pilot. It was only like 45 minutes long.
Yeah.
Made by Disney. It had the guy who played Stanley from the old It, and then also John Astin, who was from the Addams Family,
and Sean Astin's dad.
And Sean Astin's dad. And then Bud from Married with Children. Anyways, so I remember very specifically Saturday morning, my cousin and I, we went to the video store, of course, just browsing the cassette tapes, and here was Mr. Boogedy. So we grabbed that. We grabbed a copy of DuckTales for the old Nintendo.
And we great soundtrack.
Yeah, so super fun game. But I remember Mr. Boogedy was just one of... It was campy, but it was well done for a kids movie. The visual effects were pretty neat, and there was something about it that just kind of it spooked me a little bit. I think the guy, he made a deal with the devil, something like that. And as a child, I remember that was the very first time that I actually felt scared from watching a movie.
That's awesome. So we're going old school. On
Yeah,
that
it's
one.
crazy because that could have been on my list, but I'd totally forgotten about it until you said that.
1986.
That may have been the first movie that ever actually really scared me that I actually saw. Like thinking
You're
about
so
it,
innocent at
Yeah.
that point,
Yeah.
like to realize like that really scared me. But man,
What I noticed about a lot of people who are big horror fans when they get older, they're scared to death as a kid of horror. They
That's-
still are interested in it, but they're scared to death. And something about that, when they get older, they become, you become a fan of what scares you.
I remember I must have been 11. My mom coming home from Blockbuster with a movie called Jeepers Creepers. And that movie was so horrifying. I remember my family, we're sitting in the couch watching it. And the scene where the cops are following Derry and his sister, and then they get in the wreck, and then you see the creeper start whistling, and he goes up to the cop's head that got severed and picks it up, and you see a shadow. I remember going, and my mom's like, what? She goes, I'm like, I can't do it. And she's like, Tommy, pause it, Tommy, pause it. And then I had to leave.
Yeah.
And I remember that vividly. And my brother was like a Terminator, so he didn't care. He'd watch anything, But that movie terrified me. And then I wanted to finish it, so I had to wait till a Saturday morning. My mom was like, you're gonna get scared. I said, no, I'm good. The sun was out, windows were open, the sun's blaring in the house, then I could do it.
Another one that I just thought of is this is more about just the creep factor, and for anybody who, especially if you're claustrophobic, is The Descent.
Oh, that's a great one.
Just the feeling of, the creatures in it obviously are just super scary, but when they're crawling through some of these tight spaces and just the feeling of, I would have to hold my arms up just because I would feel what they were feeling being, stuck between these tight rocks. But that's one that as an adult, I guess you wouldn't say it's scary, but just the way it makes you feel, I guess, I don't know.
When we watch movies, especially, horror films, we almost we almost have these out of body experiences with these films because we want to get lost in them so much that we are almost in the screen. That's how I feel.
Yeah, well said.
When I watch these when I watch these movies, I'll be quick because I'll give you another one that was on my list, and then I'll go ahead and I'll give you guys my heavyweight champion of movies that screw me up. As a kid, another one from my dad, because my dad got me hooked on these films because he loved it, and now I'm obsessed with it. I got replicas of them over there. Puppet Master. Ruined me. Yeah. It ruined me. Anything that would make me want to pick up my feet as a kid because I'm worried.
Yeah.
I'm worried I'm going to see zzz, like, oh my God, Puppet Master ruined me as a kid. Always, I would climb into the bunk. My brother, like, what are you doing? I was like, the puppet's going to get me. He's like, oh my God. But man, that movie freaked me out. But the one movie that has ruined me at 27 years of age, I was probably 25, 26 when I watched this. Cannot watch it by myself. I can, but I really don't want to. My wife tells me stop watching it because I don't sleep. It's a found footage movie that absolutely scars me. It's called the Poughkeepsie Tapes. Yeah. It is the most insane, horrifying, unapologetic movie, even though it's a film. Just to think that they replicated the stuff in this it's insane. I mean, it's insane. Bondage, torture, these weird medieval like it almost looks like these hawk noses that the guy... Caitlin, you actually made me like a mini replica of the Poughkeepsie Man,
Yeah,
is what
it's
I call
a plague
it.
doctor.
He's on the shelf right there. That movie is so intense. Have you guys seen the Poughkeepsie Tapes?
I know it. I haven't.
It's a legend. The movie was so disturbing, it didn't get released. Like they couldn't bring it nowhere. No one would. We can't sell this. We can't put this. But Scream Factory did it. I don't know if the film was still in print. I think it may be out of print. But when I heard about it, my wife was like, "Let's get that." She's the one that made me want to see it. And I was like, "What is a Poughkeepsie?" She goes, "Chris, it's a town in New York." And I was like, "Oh, I never heard of that." But when I watched that movie, it is I have goosebumps right now because that movie makes, and I mean no disrespect, to me that movie makes The Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity, The Sacrament, name any found footage movie, Poughkeepsie Tapes takes it, cuts its throat, and throws it in a garbage can. That's what the Poughkeepsie Tapes is to me.
If that doesn't make you want to watch it, nothing will.
I mean, I have goosebumps right now. The movie is so viscerally... It legitimately looks like it's real. I mean, it is so real. So I don't know what else to say. I'm getting at a loss for words. But for me, nothing. No fly, Brundle on the wall, no creeper, no puppet, anything touches the way the Poughkeepsie Tapes makes me. I can't even talk.
For that to be the case, as for you to have that reaction as an adult.
As an adult.
I mean, an adult horror fan. How often do we see anything as adult horror fans? Because you can kind of become a little jaded because you see so much horror. Like, it's difficult to phase us. So, I mean, that says a lot.
I have one more that I forgot.
Come on.
And I was holding out because I didn't know if it was going to be on your list. But what about a movie called The Terrifier?
That was fantastic.
The one with the clown?
With Art the Clown?
Art the Clown? Yeah. That was a creepy movie. I wasn't expecting it to be that creepy. I mean, especially the scene in the little pizzeria, which I wish I had a pizzeria like that. Yeah. But that was great, man. That movie grossed me out too more than anything. But when he had the girl hung like a deer, if you know what I mean, and he starts, I don't know that scare is the word. I would call it psychological damage. The first Saw movie really damaged me as a kid. I mean, that movie really screwed with my mind.
And the first Alien movie.
Oh yeah, God. That's like
was
no doubt.
I wish I'd have watched that when I was young. I really do, because I really would have loved to experience fear from that movie. Now I just have adoration for it. You know, because I saw it at an older age, but. You know, that's clearly, you know, going to be on everybody's list. But you know, it's funny. I can anticipate people saying, "Oh my God, Halloween was a movie that scared me." I never got really scared from Halloween. But then again, I never watched it as a puppy. I mean, I watched Halloween when I was probably 15, 16, and I just loved it. You know.
It's so funny because that's the one thing. As much as I love the slasher movies, they're not necessarily the movies that scare me. But I will say there was one time me and my buddy, who is a huge Friday the 13th fan, we watched the whole series up to the time, which I think was Jason Goes to Hell was the last one. And he stayed at my house, and we were sleeping in the living room. I was like 17 at the time. And I was sleeping on a couch, and there was a window beside me. And for some reason, I started thinking about how easy it would be for a masked killer to come to my house and kill me because of the movie. And so that was one time when those movies really, really did get to me. But
we have some interesting movies. We got a found footage movie. Tommy coming in with a classic like The Exorcist, and Kaylin coming in with a movie that really wasn't. What was the Disney movie, right? And that's what's when you think about it, it's just like when you watch it now, it's like, what was I thinking? But it's almost like when we're young. It's like a different movie. It's almost like the movie, when you watch it now, it's like, this isn't the same movie I saw. Like, this is not the same movie I saw when I was younger.
That's
it's
why
so amazing.
I refuse to watch Mr. Boogedy on Disney Plus because I don't want to ruin that image of this. Because it was terrifying to me as a kid.
Well, this was really fun, man. Going down memory lane, thinking back at movies, and I dare say we love a lot of these movies that scared us.
Absolutely.
They shaped us into the horror fans today.
And as scared and freaked out as I was when I was a kid of Freddy Krueger, by the third, fourth movie, he's like a Ryan Gosling to me.
He's a buddy.
The same thing with Michael Myers and Freddy. It's like, as a horror fan, now I look at them not as scary monsters, but that's Freddy from Nightmare 4.
Third, I enjoy a good bit of the Paranormal Activity sequels. There are a couple of them that I didn't care for, but there were I don't even know how many there are now. To be honest with you, I think there's
Well, I got a
5,
collection
6.
right there. It says 6 movie collection. There's 6 of them.
Yeah,
because that's all of them in there.
So some of those were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But
Well, guys, before we go, is there any last movies you guys can think of?
I would say to anybody, Poltergeist, search for. There's a documentary about the movie and everything, and the whole series, and all the crazy things that happened during the production, the deaths. And I mean, we all know about the star, how she died during the making of the 3rd movie. And so I would check that out. And that was one of the things, knowing that stuff, is you watch the movie and you feel like there's just an evil presence, you know, in the movie itself. So
that is true. I completely forgot about that.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh man, yeah. That that is one. Now that I think about it, because I did see that fairly young, and I openly say this. I think that is the greatest horror movie ever made.
Yeah.
And especially, I've always said, living in the South and having those humid, hot summers, like, that could be any place around here. If you knew where we lived, that could be down the street. So, I mean, that definitely...
You know, it's funny, real quick, talking about that, my buddy Andrew that I talked to, and we talk about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and we say what Tommy's saying, like, these people, like, they don't understand that extra layer of realism that movie has, because there really are roads with no signs on them, and literally just roads that are just fields of nothing. And then you may see a house. Like, there are parts of the world till this day like that. So we feel that when we watch this movie.
All I have to say is, if you ever come to a place like that and pull in to get gas, if they're serving barbecue, keep going.
Just keep going. Well, guys, this is Christian, and this is Tommy, and this is Kaylin. And we want to ask you, what movies scare you guys? Let us know in the comments section below. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. Peace.
Later.